All the projectors in every theater turned off when I was 3/4 of the way through this movie. And I still hung around for 15 minutes in the dark, waiting for them to fix it. That's how compelling this movie was. Welcome back. We talk about being black on film in this series. Spoiler free up top, but the spoilers come later in the video. Watch this joint in theaters if you intend to watch this video past the visuals chapter. This is a hell of a film debut. New Orleans as the backdrop, chef's kiss. The color scheme, split screens, skin tones, and mix of static and dynamic shots are beautifully implemented throughout. I call out skin tones because that's something unique to minority-led productions, in case you haven't noticed from films like Moonlight and anything by Boots Riley. Black people are beautiful, and you can do a lot with lighting and grading to emphasize that correctly. The occasional frenetic editing is excellent. It turns exposition scenes in the beginning into a puzzle that treats you like an adult without over-explaining everything. Very engaging cinematography from Alexander Dinan, who's worked on several mid-budget films before this, none of which I've seen. I did hear about First Reformed by A24, and I'm an Ethan Hawke fan, so I'll check that out. Dog Eat Dog looks fire too. I see Norman Osborn, I watch. Alicia Harris's genre mix has been referred to as spaghetti western, afro-punk, and revenge thriller. I'd say that's accurate. All those elements came through clearly for me. This was originally a popular stage play that won the Relentless Award in 2016 and premiered at Soho Rep in 2018. I could have used more characterization of the core family unit and main villain, but the movie absolutely works well as is. Harris said she wrote it as medicine for herself, and that absolutely tracks. I'd never seen the play or heard of it before the previews for this movie came out, and I'm glad I came into the story fresh. Now that I think about it, there were definitely moments where I could tell this came from a play originally, and I mean that as a good thing. As a person who doesn't like plays at all, there weren't any moments where I felt like this is dragging or I'm bored. Boredom isn't really an option in this movie. The intentional editing doesn't let you turn your brain off. Some of the dialogue and theatricality feels like it was ripped straight off the stage, while some moments were very clearly expanded upon and added to make the film stronger. Costuming was on point. It felt original and unique to this world the filmmakers built without distracting from the story. The sisters' style is largely streetwear and things they find along the way, which was dope. Loved the music throughout. It helped amplify that homegirls road trip vibe while also hitting in a different way to punctuate the emotion. A little bit of Lick Lee 47, Death Grips, Prince, Doechii, Beyonce. It was used well to punctuate moments and keep the tone even. The needle drops were all pretty satisfying. I just accepted it as part of the world building.
Now, we didn't miss that we had Beyonce's song Yeah Yeah from Cowboy Carter used in the trailer for this movie. Can you go over why the song was a perfect fit?
First of all, obviously we're thinking about Cowboy Carter, we're thinking about cowboys, cowgirls, black women, and empowerment, and these signifiers of the West, a horse, traveling west, as our twins do. And Beyonce she looms larger than life. There's something mythic about her performance. The visuals that are attached to her performance are like epic. And so I think in those regards, it makes perfect sense. This black woman who's so empowered and right in the seat of her power, and this, singing a song that is a Western for a story that's a Western is like a no-brainer, right?
Bottom to the top, I'm gonna leave the stars of the show for the end of this section. I love the supporting cast. There were multiple minor characters that made sure this movie didn't lag in the middle, especially Josiah Cross and Erica Alexander as the second family unit of The Monster, played incredibly by Sterling K. Brown. That's about all I can say without spoiling, so here's your warning. Vivica kickstarts the road trip the sisters go on pretty effectively, and it was good to see her back on screen again. It's been a minute. Last thing I saw her star in was the terrible Independence Day sequel, even though I didn't go see that in theaters. Mykelti Williamson acted as a character without a tongue, which I don't think anyone ever gets enough credit for. Non-verbal acting is a real test of how well you can convey emotional distress and intention. Janelle Monáe is always great. I've loved her work since Moonlight, and she killed it in her double role in the first Knives Out sequel, Glass Onion. Erica Alexander plays Divine, a neighborhood evangelical church leader who apparently got dickmatized by the monster to the point where she has a shrine to the dude despite him leaving her and her son Ezekiel years ago. Cross played Ezekiel, a low-key bright point in the second act that pushes the story forward at the perfect moment. He's just as devoted to the monster as his mom is, even though that man walked out on them forever ago. Okay, the headliners. Kara Young and Mallory Johnson are Racine or Scene and Anaya or Naya, fraternal twins with severe permanent burn scars on their bodies and or faces from trying to save their mother, Vivica Fox, aka the god from the title, from being burned alive by the monster. Man literally beat her, put her in a bathtub, and lit her on fire in front of these girls, and then just walked to the front door to smoke a cigarette. They got their burns trying to save her, and the film really makes you feel it by sending up vapor whenever they put ice on each other to relieve the irritation every day. Vivica lifts her sheet up at one point, and it's like she was boiling corn under there. The sisters are characterized beautifully as the rough one and the quiet one, and the film gives them plenty of space to build those personas out and step outside of them at times. Mostly Anaya, she does a couple things that really defy her introverted nature at key moments. Mostly killing a nerd by stabbing him in the back and fighting her abusive ass daddy while her sister was out of commission. Shy doesn't mean weak or unwilling to handle business when you need to. Sterling K. Brown's The Monster is as bad as the movie wants you to believe he is. There's this devastating mix of coldness, apathy, denial, and cruelty mixed with a tiny bit of pathos at the end. It immediately made me feel great by comparison because no black family drama has ever had a man this evil at the center of it in recent memory. Tyler Perry could never. Let's double back and catch whatever I haven't already mentioned. The characterization of Racine and Anaya is obviously what this film rides on, and I think they casted perfectly. At first, I kind of found them cartoonish, but they grew on me pretty quickly. Favorite stylistic choice had to be the non-verbal conversations they had randomly throughout the movie with the words on screen, as if the twins had an intuition strong enough to achieve telepathy. That's definitely a stylistic flair I'd use if I made a film like this. The narration uses each character's voice instead of having one dominant voice, and emphasizes important themes throughout without being too much. I thought that was dope as hell. The emotional core of this movie is the massive harm done by this caricature of a black man.
For fear that it would wag, he took my time.
And I'll submit that even though I've never known any black men on this level of callous evil, I'm not claiming they don't exist either. He seemed detached at times in a way that only a legit sociopath could achieve, like when he walked past his son's dead bodies in the house as if he's seen shit like that a million times. That's probably one of the only characterization choices I can technically hold against the film, but I wouldn't. What I get is why Harris would want to exaggerate the heartlessness of the villain to keep the film's momentum up. If you don't buy how horrible this man is, the narrative would start to fall apart. It is a revenge thriller. Favorite moment in the movie? Ezekiel coming back on that motorcycle to destroy their car and kill them with a hammer. It was filmed in a way that made it hilarious, but you also felt the tension and fear at the same time, because that was scary. That's a tough thing to balance. We meet Angie on the day she decides to escape. And unfortunately for her, that's the same day the twins pop up at the crib trying to kill her husband. She shows her true colors in that moment of confrontation, deciding to get defensive and spit in Racine's face instead of joining them in persecuting her husband. I mean, you're leaving him forever right now, and you still decide to push back against his daughters when you already knew what he did to their mother? That's some cold shit. That's the last time she ever spit, because Racine takes a rock and a sock and beats the brakes off of her. We don't see her die, but Anaya tells the monster later that they killed her. My theater's projectors went out right before they did the stripper dance for the monster's twin sons, their half brothers. At least I assume that's what happened before the oldest son got killed by Racine. I didn't really have any issues with the third act here, to be honest, outside of how Racine's death was played. It was like they ran out of budget towards the end and didn't let that moment breathe very much, but I'm sure it was intentional. In my opinion, it should have been played differently and made more clear than that. I half expected her to come out of the house at the end. The monster also should have been dead by that point. Man was on fire for like 30 seconds by then. Feminism is obviously a driving force of this film. Black feminism and justice for black women who've been harmed specifically. Alicia Harris said, quote, "I'm thinking about justice, but the cost of justice, I guess, right?" What is the impact on the person who's carrying out the act of revenge, and how to be okay in the face of harm, end quote. The period piece feel with the sepia tones throws us back to a time where black men were able to create and destroy multiple families in a row and get away with it, which is something that probably created quite a few feminists in decades past. It's a road trip with your homegirls vibe, since these two are not only sisters, but they're genuinely friends with each other. That isn't always true for siblings. We also see that at every step of the monster's life, as represented by the three women we meet in the movie. He gets richer and richer. The final wife, played by Janelle Monáe, is just as emotionally disturbed by the monster as Vivica Fox's God is. God is left burned and bitter. Divine is left painfully loyal and obsessive, while Angie is terrified while simultaneously being complicit in this man's perpetuation of patriarchal abuse. I say complicit because a woman with knowledge of a man abusing other women, to that extent especially, holds some responsibility to not engage with him, much less marry him and give him 2 kids. He provided safety and financial security, so she was conflicted. I didn't miss the connection between God, divine, and angel, which is what I assume Angie is short for. The religious through line is strong in this film, is in the title, and God sends them on a literal missionary trip to kill the devil. I think all 3 mother figures having those names adds to the feminist theme, since they all have very clear flaws that would make them irritating and even villains in a different movie. As it stands though, nobody can out-evil or out-problematic the monster himself. Sterling K. Brown is really convincing as a terrible person, but that's just a testament to his skills. All in all though, the twins are the heart and soul of this movie, and I think I'd have preferred for both of them to survive. I'm not gonna knock the film for that, but if you kill one of them, you need to earn it more effectively than whatever that ending was. The key takeaway from me is that black women can propel a movie's plot and themes just as effectively, if not more so, than men can. It's tough to not draw comparisons to the twins at the heart of Sinners, since that was the last black movie with this much cultural force behind it. They're both period pieces to an extent too, both in the South, both with exceptional supporting casts, and both with very clear differentiation between each of the twins. They even share the element where one twin is protective of the other, and they have extremely violent third acts. I don't think it's possible for film reviews to call out everything interesting about a film, but I tried to lock in on some of the things that made the most impact on me. For an example of something important that I didn't really discuss a lot here, Anaya had a baby after all the events of the third act. I was so thrown off by Racine's death that the baby was like I was bitter by by the time the baby came on screen. So that's an example of something that I could have talked about more probably, but support black films, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.